Oh, here we go. Hey, guys, can y'all stand and sing with us?
When I was searching, your love was never far. You made a way to get to me. You were the whisper leading me to your heart. Forever I belong to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you were for me. You won't let go. Love won't let me down. And I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you. Never change your love. Won't let me down. Love won't let me when I need you, you listen as I pray. You leave the 99 free. You paint the sky with promises of your grace. So I will find my way to you. Now I can see clearly, my God, you are for me. You won't let go. Love won't let me down, and I know it's true. Yeah, I know that your love is all around. I believe in you, holding on to you. Holding on to you, holding on to you, never change your love. Won't let me down. Love won't let me change your love. Won't let me down. Love won't let me. I was running wild, fell in love with the chase. I've been up and down and all over the place, wasting all my days and nights, never feeling satisfied. Putting on a smile, I was keeping it fake. Yeah, there's no imitating what I found in your grace. All the things I left behind are shadows, now I see the light. In my head, in my soul, in my heart, in my own, I know that I know. Never, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never, never am I ever getting over you. Nothing will change it. All I can say is never, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Got a million reasons why I can't be the same. You got me looking forward, never turning my gaze. Wherever God is, you and I, together till the end of time. always your love is kind. Your love is never hard to find. Forever I am yours and you're mine. Alright, oh, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never am I ever getting over you. Nothing will change it. All I can say is never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never have I ever known. Never have I ever known. Never have I ever known.
All right, you guys can have a seat.
Can you hear me now? Sweet. How many of you guys had a great Thanksgiving this last week? Excited to come back? Perfect. How many of you guys love Christmas and excited for Christmas to come? Because tonight we're going to do a game that involves two of my favorite things in the world. Christmas, and well, food's my third favorite as far as items, and kazoos. It is probably my favorite musical instruments. So we're going to get some people up here. We're going to get 4 boys and 4 girls. So I need volunteers. If you love Christmas and love kazoos, you're going to love this game. So I need 4 boys, 4 girls. 1. Cooper. I don't know your name. What is it? Brayden, come on up. Come on up. I got 2 and 2. Cooper. Andrew, come on. You guys duke it out. Who wants to come up? Come on up. Come on up. How many is that? I need 1 more boy. 1 more boy. Come on up. We don't have a 5th. Oh, we do have a 5th grade. Come on up. All right. So what's going to happen in this game is there's going to be a song, a kazoo song going on, and we're going to do similar to like Family Feud style, where it's one-on-one, but there's not going to be points or where you pass or play. It's just one at a time. Whoever raises their hand first can name that song, gets the point. And of course, the team that wins is the one that gets the most points. So do the first one as an example. What is it? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You got it. So that would be an easy one. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Got to name it. So we're just going to have, I'm going to scoot back here. First people of each, boy and girl, come on up into the center stage. Yes, slap that thing. Thank you, sir. You are the man. You are the man. All right, so the first one to slap that button is going to name it. You guys ready? Jingle Bell Rock. Jingle Bell Rock. Point for the girls. 1 point for the girls. All right. Get back. Next group. Next group, come on up. Girls win the first one. Hey, let's make sure we're not shouting it out in the audience, though. They both couldn't get it. All right. Go for the next one. You guys ready? What is it?
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Santa Claus is coming to town? No, it was not. Here comes Santa Claus, not Santa Claus is coming to town. Not a point. Next group, next group. All right, you ready for the next one? Slap the buzzer as soon as you hear it and know it. Santa Claus is coming to town. Perfect. 2 points for the girls, no points for the boys. 2 girls, 1 boy. All right, go. Little drummer boy. 3 points for the girls, taking a huge lead, commanding lead. All right, step right on up. Second time through. Rocking around the Christmas tree. Girls are crushing it. 4 points for the girls, 0 points for the boys. All right, each one of you, go find somebody in the audience, another boy, to replace you. 4 girls, find somebody in the audience to replace you. Find somebody to replace you. Four new girls, 4 new boys. Still missing a boy, still missing a boy. All right, step right up, boy and a girl, step right on up. Oh, sibling rivalry. 4 points for the girls. All right, go ahead. All right, go sit down. You got it. Santa or Grandma got run over by a reindeer. All right, next one's another boy, another girl. All right, go. Jingle bells, an easy one. Jingle bells, yes. 5 points for the girls, 0 for the boys. 0. Step right on up. Step right on up. All right, we're ready. Frosty the Snowman, the boys get on the board. Hey, 5-1, 5-1. Oh, you get stuck. The music guy, no cheating, no cheating. Penalty for you. All right, let's go. It's
beginning to look a lot like
Christmas. There you go. There you go. 2 points, 2 in a row for the boys, even with the extra. All right, here's the next one. You guys ready? Feliz Navidad. 3 in a row for the guys. Big comeback coming. Big comeback coming. Girls. All right, go ahead. You have. You've heard it. No, not Silent Night. All right, sit down. We Three Kings. We Three Kings. Last one before you guys go replace him with somebody else. How many more do we have? All right, we won't get through them all. All right, go. Yeah. Santa Baby. 5 points for the girls, 4 points for the boys. Go find 4 new boys. Go find 4 new girls. And this one, you only will do 1 round each. 4 more, 5-4. Girls are still winning. 4 girls and 4 boys. Good work. Still missing 1 girl, 2 boys. Still missing 1 girl. Need 1 more girl. Need 1. Hasn't done it yet. 1 more girl. Come on, peer pressure. Everybody's got to start chanting. Yeah, we got 2. All right, step right on up. Step right on up. 1 boy, 1 girl. Go ahead. 5-4. Peace on earth. There it is. 5-5. It's tied up, folks. 5-5. Down. Oh, Hark the Herald. So it was not. Oh, it's still 5-4. 5-4. 5-4. Sorry. My bad. Not away in the manger. Run, run, Rudolph. I don't know this one. Run, run, Rudolph. It is correct. 6-4. 6-4. Last 2. Last 2. Silent Night. Silent Night. 6-5. 6-5. Last one, sibling rivalry again. And go. Not the first Noel. What is it? I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. That's it. The girls win. The girls win. Good job, girls. Good job, ladies. Hey, before we get into the lesson tonight, Tyler's going to be speaking about Advent. But let's go ahead and bow our heads in prayer, if you guys would with me. Let's go ahead and bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for just fun and games and being able to prepare for Christmas. The joys, the songs, the lights. Lord, we just love it. We get a chance just to celebrate in so many ways. I get to hear it from the kids, traditions, just all the things that we get to do just brings joy to everybody's heart. So, Lord, thank you for that. Help us to prepare our hearts tonight for what Tyler's going to bring to us. Help us to remember that we can tell others about the baby Jesus. Tell others about why we celebrate Christmas and why they should celebrate with us. So, Lord, help us just to be joyful in all the things we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right. Hey, Good News Youth. My name is Tyler. I'm the Connections pastor here at church. I spoke probably about a month ago now, so if you remember that was good for us today. Hopefully, you are excited to be here again, and we're here. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but Ryan texted me about 7 this morning and said, "Hey, one of my kiddos has COVID. Can you prepare a message for tonight?" It's like, sure, it sounds good. So about 12 hours of preparation. So bear with me here. I might stick to my notes a little bit more than I'd like to, but that's okay. And we're also going to have the fifth graders in with us here tonight, so we're all going to, pay attention, and it's going to be great, right? So, well, I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving and a Thanksgiving break and are ready back in school for a great last, 12, 13 days here. My wife is a teacher, and she's already counting down the days to Christmas break. It's going to be a good, hopefully refreshing break for all of you to have. I know it's been a pretty difficult years so far. So anyways, we are now starting a series on Advent, and we're going to talk a lot about what that means tonight. But this is week 1 of kind of a 3-week series that we'll be doing here leading up to Christmas. And so you just saw that video there. But of course, if you haven't noticed, it's that time of year again, right? You've probably started your present wish list. I don't know if you guys do that. I used to take like those ads that you'd get, and I would go and circle everything that I wanted, and most of it I wouldn't get, of course. But maybe you have a wish list that your grandma or maybe your mom asked you for. Maybe you started decorating the house. My wife and I, this year, we decided we probably should kind of grow up a little bit, become adults, and buy ourselves a beautiful, massive Christmas tree. Here it is, right here. Yeah? Yeah. Yep. That is yes, thank you. It's 4 feet tall. We don't have much space, so if you don't like it, then whatever, we're proud of it. So thank you. Yes. We, this year Black Friday just happened, of course, and it was kind of a record year for shopping online, as you can imagine. There was a record $12.8 billion spent on Black Friday online this year, and I think the number of people who were going to shop in the stores was like 20% or something like that. So it was mostly online, but still a lot of money was spent. So whether or not you're ready for it, even though there's a pandemic, everything else going on, and Christmas is here. And maybe this year you feel a little bit like the Cincinnati Christmas tree, if you guys saw this. Yeah. Maybe you feel like that. Maybe your life is kind of like that this year. I think we all feel a little bit patchy. But somehow they kind of put everything together, and it looks very beautiful now. So I don't know how they do it, but it was cool. Christmas is still coming, guys. It's here. So in the church, we have a name for this time of year. It's called Advent. And again, that's what we're talking about tonight. The season of Advent begins 4 weekends or 4 Sundays before Christmas. And, this year and every year, it seems like people start celebrating Christmas earlier and earlier. If you're one of those people, you know what I'm talking about, who start celebrating, decorating, singing Christmas songs right after Halloween, one of those people. I don't really get it, but it is what it is. No matter when you start celebrating, whether you're an after Thanksgiving person, whether you're right after Halloween, we can all agree that Advent itself starts 4 weeks prior to Christmas. And so what does Advent mean? This seems like kind of a churchy word that we might use on Sundays and not really use outside of Sundays. So you see here on the screen, we have the definition. Oxford Dictionary defines it as the arrival of a notable person, thing, or event. I'm a history guy, so if you would use it in this context, the advent of the railroads, the first railroad into Sioux Falls was during the 1870s. So you could use it in that sense. You're waiting for it, you're anticipating it. But also in the Oxford Dictionary, they use kind of a Christian theological sense as well, and they say Advent is defined as the coming or second coming of Christ. So you can use it in a kind of a secular sense, but you can also use it in a sense of Christ, and that's, of course, how we use it. So you might have already learned or heard a lot about Advent, but you've never maybe used that term before. Again, it seems like kind of a churchy word. How many of you have heard a sermon or had a Sunday school lesson on baby Jesus at some point in your life? Probably, right? Almost everybody. Yeah. Maybe you've heard about how the angel came to Mary and how the beautiful song she sang in response, of course. Maybe you've heard about how the same angel came to Joseph and convinced him not to divorce Mary, even when he found out she was pregnant. Maybe you've read about how Elizabeth and Zechariah were given a son, even though they've been barren for a long time, had been waiting for a son for many years, and how that son was supposed to prepare the way for a Messiah. Or maybe you've heard just the classic tale, maybe the Luke 2 story of Jesus being born in a manger. Maybe even if you didn't go to church growing up, or maybe this is your very first time in a church, you've probably heard something about baby Jesus and the Christmas story before. So all these stories are very much about what Advent is about, of course, but we're also going to talk about kind of that second definition of what Advent is. So let's go back to that, not the first one, but the one referring to the definition of Advent from a Christian theological standpoint, which is the second coming of Jesus Christ, the first coming and the second coming. And we're going to spend a lot of time in the next couple of weeks talking about kind of both of those things, the first coming of Christ, but also the second coming of Christ. And what you normally associate Christmas with, all of them, that first half of the definition. But this is the time of year when the church is supposed to be talking about the second coming of Christ as well. Sometimes we just think of that baby Jesus perspective. We don't talk about this as much in the church. For whatever reason, we don't talk about the second coming of Christ all that often. So during this series, over the next 3 weeks, whenever Ryan comes back, we're going to be talking about Advent and the second coming of Christ. We're going to be turning the tables a little bit, and not just a typical thing you would do. So if you can grab a Bible, or if you have your phone, we're going to be in Matthew 24, 36 through 44. It's going to be up on the screen as well, but it's always good to look it up yourself if you have it on your phone or on the Bible in front of you. So I'll give you a couple of minutes here, or a couple seconds. Matthew 24, 36 through 44. This, while it might not seem like an Advent thing, this is traditionally considered an Advent reading in the Christian church. So you can follow along up on here on the screen. But about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it would be at the coming of the Son of Man. Two men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill, one will be taken and the other left. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. So if you were following along on your phone or in a Bible, and you have a red letter Bible, you saw that these letters were red letters. And up on the screen there, you can see they're also red letters. And if you don't know what that means, it means that these words are attributed or quoted to Jesus. And he speaks them. And typically, you would think that these are important words to follow because he's the foundation of our faith. But in this sense, we also kind of have the ability to kind of draw some different conclusions because we know that Jesus spoke them. So clearly what Jesus is talking about here is Advent. Again, you're talking about the first coming and the second coming. He refers multiple times to the coming of both the Lord and the Son of Man. But since it is Jesus himself who is saying these things, we can assume he is referring to that second coming. Because if he was referring to the first coming when he was born, obviously it wouldn't work, right? Now he is shifting our view into the truth that there is more to come. Not just that first coming that he was born as a baby, but that there is more to come in the future. In the same way, what I want to do tonight and throughout this series is to shift our view from just the baby Jesus to the possibility in this Advent that there is more in hold for things that we typically celebrate this time of year. Sometimes we love, and if you've ever seen Talladega Nights, there's like a prayer at one point, and the main character, Will Ferrell, I think it was Will Ferrell, continued to pray to baby Jesus, and then his dad or one of the older guys was like, he grew up as well, not just the baby Jesus. Sometimes we all love baby Jesus. I grew up with like a nativity scene at my house, if all of you have one of these, or some of you may have these. And my wife, her mom talks about this all the time, where she had a nativity scene, and she would just spend so much time playing with the nativity scene, putting all the shepherds in, taking baby Jesus, playing with him, all those things. We love baby Jesus. But I'm here to burst your bubble today to tell you that he also grew up. He didn't just stay a baby his whole life. He grew up, and he had a ministry. He was a man, and then of course, later on we'll find out that he died, was crucified, and then rose again. So these words are important, and it was hard for him when he would talk about these things with people, saying that there's more to come. It was hard for them to understand that, because they're like, well, wait a second, you're right here. What do you mean you're going to come again? Like, you already born. How's this going to happen? But yet, of course, Jesus was always challenging people's perspective on what is and what is to come. But so in this situation, as Jesus starts telling his disciples about the second coming, he makes it clear that no one knows when this will happen. He's telling them what will happen, but they don't know when it's going to happen. Depending on how you think about it, in the situation of the first coming, there were signs, and there was kind of a big deal of Jesus being born the first time, but there was also kind of this other side where it was very obscure, and not many people knew about Jesus being born. So we know that, if you know the Christmas story, we know that there was a star placed in the sky, and that those who were most educated, those we call the wise men, found it, and they followed it. They found the significance of it, and of course they found Jesus. And we know that these men did share some of their knowledge with some of the rulers at the time. So it was known to a degree. And of course, we know that the angels couldn't help but share their excitement and joy that Jesus had come to the shepherds, and the shepherds came and worshiped Jesus at the same time. But also think of how many people in this region, in this time, didn't know that Jesus was born. And if we think that Jesus being born is the change, like it changes our whole lives, even to this day, think about how many people didn't know in the region, in like the area, and even in the whole world they didn't know. Even in Bethlehem, think about how many people didn't know. The innkeeper who famously turned them away and said, we don't have room, but then gave them the stable to allow Jesus to be born in, he continued on life unchanged afterwards. Jesus tells his disciples that the second time he comes, no one will know when he comes. So while that first time we know like what was going on, no one will know the second time. There won't be a bright star in the sky, and there won't be anybody to alert rulers and presidents and kings that Jesus is coming again. This should give us some confidence that anyone who thinks that they know when Jesus is coming back, they're wrong. We don't know. We don't know the time. We don't know when and how and all of those things. We don't know what it is. Some of you maybe are too young to remember this, but some of you are probably old enough. Back in 2012, some of you were probably very young, which makes me feel old. There was kind of this thing where people were theorizing that the world was ending, because the Mayans back in the day had this calendar, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, had this calendar which was like very accurate, I guess. And so in 2012, people, like their calendar just stopped. And people were like, oh my goodness, the Mayans knew something. They knew the world was ending. And I remember people saying that this was going to happen. I was at like a baseball game at this time, and I just remember like looking up and like waiting for like the rapture to happen, where Jesus was going to come back. And I'm like, I just remember thinking these people are so dumb that they think that they know when Jesus is coming back, but we don't know. And that's why Jesus in this situation warns us to be ready, be on guard. So have you ever thought that you knew something, and this was a small group question today, but have you ever thought you knew when something was, but you were wrong? Like an example that I had in my 8th grade group beforehand was like a practice that you thought was at a specific time, but then it was actually at another time. You ever had that where you like showed up really late and you felt really embarrassed? It happens. I have this when people tell me about a specific time and I don't put it in my phone, then I usually forget. Right? And sometimes it's not a big deal, but other times there's huge consequences when you think something's going to happen at a specific time, but it happens at another time. Jesus recalls in this situation, he recalls the story of Noah in explaining his warning to the people. During the time of Noah, people were sinful. All but a few people didn't know the love of God. Really, Noah and his family were the only people that were actually doing what God had called them to do. And does that sound familiar to our day? People were sinful and not many people loved God. Of course it does. It's never changed, right? As Noah obeyed and built this ark in anticipation of the flood, the people continued their lives as normal. And in the end, everyone died except for Noah, his family, and of course, the animals. In the same way, Jesus spoke to the disciples of a broken and sinful world in this time period. Noah was, thousands of years ago, and Jesus was talking in this time period to a world that needed to be saved. Jesus had come to do the saving, but the reality is that those who didn't want it, those who didn't listen, and those who frankly were just not caring, were all unprepared. They're all unprepared for it. They don't get the saving. That's unfortunate. In the time of Noah, it was those who were outside of the ark who were lost and perished in the flood, right? If you didn't have a boat, you died. That's the reality of it. But now Jesus is telling us that those who don't follow him, those are the ones who are lost, and those are the ones who are unprepared, and they will perish. And that's harsh, but it's the reality of it. So when I read this, how many of you have seen like the Avengers movies? Raise your hand. Yeah, a few? Just a few, that's okay. I'm not like an Avengers nerd. I'm not like a Marvel nerd. Some of those people out there are like really into the comic books and stuff. I just like the movies. I actually watched the movies start to finish, like chronologically, so I knew the storyline, and then I went to Avengers Endgame, which was awesome. It was amazing. One of the best like months of my life was doing that, other than, of course, when I got married. Yes, thank you. And when I read this, the scripture, if you can think back to it, it just kind of said that, like, in the field, one person would go, the other would stay. And in the mill or whatever it was, one woman would go and one would stay. I thought of when Thanos was, of course, if you don't know the story, Thanos, this bad guy, was going around the universe trying to find these infinity stones, which would make him all-powerful. He could do whatever he wanted. And what he wanted to do was erase half of humanity and half of the universe. So he goes around in Infinity War, and he gets all of these different stones while the Avengers are trying to stop him. And the very last stone that he gets, which is on Earth, he puts it in the gauntlet that he has, and while all the Avengers, again, are trying to stop him. And then he snaps his finger, and half the people are gone. And the Avengers, they knew what was going on. They knew what was going to happen because they were in the know. Kind of like Jesus is alerting us, we're in the know. But there's a ton of people on Earth who didn't know what was going on in the Marvel universe, right? There's a lot of people that just faded away. And if you've seen the movie, you know how that is. They just faded away. And I kind of picture that same thing when Jesus comes back. There's going to be some that will perish. They will just kind of fade away. And then some who will, of course, go to eternity with him. And that's scary. It should be scary for you for that to happen. To your family, friends, anybody, even to you. And that's where we're kind of going tonight with it. So Jesus goes on to emphasize that everyone will find themselves either prepared or unprepared when he returns. He doesn't say that those who will be working in the fields will all be saved. Or he doesn't say those working in the mills will all be saved. He doesn't box people in and say, well, these people are, these people aren't. No, that's actually the scariest thing, I think, about this whole situation, is that we don't know who's going to be saved and who's not going to be saved. And that's where I think in Scripture it says that we shouldn't be sure that we have such a solid foundation, because you might be on sand when you think you're on rock. And that's where it is too. We don't know other people around us. It's a warning because we all must be on guard in this situation. It doesn't matter if you're in 5th grade. It doesn't matter if you're a senior in high school. It doesn't matter if you're an older person. Everyone has to be on guard. We also must be seeking to love the Lord and to let others know of his love at all times. And that's where this verse comes back into play. Be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect. And that's where it's dangerous, when we think we know, but we don't. So have you ever had a pop quiz in class? One more time, you're going to raise your hands. Pop quiz? Hopefully they don't do this much anymore, but sometimes it happens. So I'm an education major. I'm not a huge fan of this because I don't think it's the best way to test your knowledge. But usually in this situation, the teacher at the beginning of the year will hand out the syllabus and will say, hey, just so you know, anything I talk about, anything that's in our readings, anything that is discussed in class can and will be on a pop quiz at some point. And you don't know when, so usually right away you go home and you're like, okay, I need to study my notes. I'm going to go and do all the things I need to do to make sure if there's a pop quiz or something that happens, I'm ready. And then after a while, there's no pop quiz, and you're just like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then the one day comes where your teacher sets a quiz on your desk, and you fail because you weren't ready. Usually we're mad at the teacher because you're like, that is so unfair. But sometimes we're mad at ourselves, but nevertheless, we're unprepared. You know that feeling when you're unprepared for a test or a quiz or something. You are unprepared. So then the question is, as we wrap up, are you ready for Jesus to return? Are your friends ready for Jesus to return? How about your family? What about the guy that lives next door, the old guy that lives next door that you've never talked to in your life? Do you think he's ready? I don't think Jesus was trying to scare us. I don't think he was even trying to talk about pop quizzes or anything like that, right? But what I do think he was trying to do was tell us of the grave consequences if we don't, and if we aren't ready for Jesus to return. And the consequences, I can tell you today, are going to be much worse than failing a pop quiz. And that's, again, just reality. Now, this message in this series isn't about scaring you again. It's not about pop quizzes. It's not about Avengers. It's not about any of that stuff. It isn't meant to make you feel obligated to check your hearts or check in on the hearts of everyone around you. You don't need to go home and say, like, Mom, are you ready? Dad, are you ready? Although you could. It's not meant to do that. That's not the goal here. It's not even supposed to make you feel guilty about your relationship with God. In fact, I think if the reason for you following God is so that you don't maybe go to hell, or that you're out of guilt because the pastor at church or someone at church told you needed to be in right relationship with him, it's probably not the best anyways. That's not the relationship Jesus wants us to have with him. But what we do want to do in this series is talk about Advent. Talk about the coming of Jesus in the way that we traditionally think and what we celebrate this time of year, but also talk about that second coming, because that second coming is coming. And we have no idea when it's going to occur. So tonight, I want to challenge you. I have a challenge up here. In the midst of this season with shopping, putting up trees, Christmas lights, all of those things, even when you sit down with family to open presents and have Christmas dinner, and even maybe read the Luke 2 story of Jesus, think about all those things. It's amazing and it's good. It's good for us to be reminded of what Jesus did, coming in the form of a man, in a baby. But also think about that second coming. Let your mind shift a little bit to think about the second coming, that second advent, and resonate on the words of the grown-up Jesus, not the baby Jesus, who was soon to be crucified, resurrected for you and for me, and to be ready for that second coming. Because we're in that period from where he resurrected, and he's going to come. He could come any day. Are you ready for it? Let me pray. God, thank you for today. Thank you for the chance just to come. God, I just pray that the words I had were your words, and that the take home would be, God, just to be ready. You know, I was even talking before this with some 8th graders and just saying, hey, if Jesus came tomorrow, like, would you be ready for that? And it was kind of this, like, it's a challenge for all of us to say, well, what about getting married? What about having a family? What about graduating high school? Like, I don't want to miss out on those things. And I think that those things are all good, Father, but when we put those in front of you, it's not right. Because we know that what is to come in eternity with you is so much better than anything that we could experience here. So whether it's been an amazing year for people, or whether it's been a really hard year, I pray that you meet us where we are at. And tonight, as we do have that anticipation for your coming, maybe the anticipation for presence or just family time, all of those things, just allow us to meet you in that, but also, God, to think about what it is that you have for us in your second coming and how we ought to be living even now. So, God, as we sing one more song tonight and discuss a few questions in our small groups, just be with us and let us go and finish up this school year strong and maybe go into Christmas. And hopefully 2021 will be a little bit of a better year. We love you, Father, in your name. Amen. Okay, if you're able, let's stand, and then afterwards, you'll go to small group, but they're a little funky tonight because we have some leaders out. So just find your leader if they're here, and then we'll kind of go from there. Thanks, guys.
Behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born.
All right, you guys can head to small groups.